Welcome back. This is episode 11 in the series on basic mixing. So as you probably can tell, some things have changed in our project. And the reason for that is that after making the basic mix, I had the pianist of this band over in the studio, and we listened to the tracks together and determined what changes he wanted for the final version. And as you can see, the automation for the volume of the trumpet is in place now. And in order to have easy access to the trumpet's volume overall, I have routed the automated trumpet group to another group track, which is now the master volume, so I can turn it up and down with the automation in place. Right here you can see where I'm sending the signal from the regular trumpet group. Here we go, groups, and it's going into the group channel that I'm calling master volume. And when I solo this track right here, you can see all the tracks that this kind of routing has an impact on. And again, the only reason to do that is to have easy access to all the parameters of the track that we have edited so far. Down here you can see that the reverb for the instruments overall is now on a group channel track and not an FX channel track anymore. So let's look at the reverb plugin real quick. You can see the EQ is in place right here. And we have turned up the dry mix all the way, and the wet mix is down to 1.6%, which is not a lot of reverb. The reason for these changes is that the pianist preferred it that way. He wanted a little reverb, a little room, but not really something that you actually could hear. It shouldn't impact the overall recording. And so we adjusted it until he thought that it was okay. And that is one of the major changes to this project so far. And because of that, the routing for each channel has changed a little bit. I'm sending the group channel tracks to the reverb group now, instead of splitting the signal and sending it to an FX channel, as you can see right here. Other than that, we just fine-tuned some of the compressors, a little bit of the EQ, and balanced the volume of the instruments even further. I would suggest now that we listen to a small piece of the song to get an idea of how the mix sounds right now. So that was a small part of the final mix, and as you probably could see right here, the output on the master channel, on the master out, was very, very low. And that is exactly how I want it, because this gives us a lot of headroom when it comes to mastering. Because of the low volume the mix has right now, I like to put the L2 by Waves on the stereo out of the project. This is a limiter, kind of works like a compressor, you could say, and it basically lifts the signal a little more, makes it a little more brilliant, but without compressing it too much or making it sound totally different from the mix that we have so far. You don't really need to put effects on the master output of your project normally. It all depends on what the headroom of your mix is, and we have the opportunity here, so let's listen. As you could hear, I was bypassing the effect from time to time to have you hear the difference between effect on the master out and no effect on the master out, basically. So in this case, the limiter on the master out kind of contributes to the mix. That's why I'm going to leave it on there. Now that we have a final mix, we're going to go ahead and create a WAV file that then can be used for mastering. In Cubase, we want to make sure that we mark the section of the project that we want to bounce so that there is no silence on the WAV file in the beginning of the song or that the song cuts off at the end. So now that we have done that, we're going to go to File and then Export. Keep in mind we have our sample rate and our bit rate right here, and this is sample rate and bit rate in which the project has been recorded. And so here we are in the Export Audio Mixdown window. And that will allow us to create a file with all the effects that we have put in place, the automations, and basically all the changes we have made to the tracks. You can name your project right here. You can select a path where it's supposed to be bounced to. And right here we can select the output file, meaning, for example, MP3 WAV files. We can select different kinds right here. Now for mastering, I'm using a WAV file, and I'm going to set the sample rate and the bit rate to the CD standard. Cubase has a very nice feature that allows you to use the channel batch export function, and you can basically select all the tracks you want to export with one click and then export them to a folder that makes separate tracks in case you want to use certain instruments in your project for another project, for example. We're going to go with the stereo out though, because we want the complete project to be mixed into one file. And there we go. Now, depending on the hardware you're using and also on how big your project is and how many effects are on there, this might take some time. But after that, you will end up with a complete WAV file of the project that you've just mixed. So that's it for today's episode. Next time, we're going to go ahead and compare the mixed version to the mastered version. And we're also going to look into some details around practicing your technique when it comes to mixing. Thank you for watching again, and goodbye.